Hey guys, thought I'd take a moment to talk about why the South lost the Civil War. It's pretty much April is pretty much when the Confederacy fell apart. It's when Robert E. Lee surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia, and Joe Johnston surrendered the Army of Tennessee. And so now I'm going to talk about how this all happened. Okay, one, the Union had way more manpower than the Confederacy. It was like, roughly 4-1. Well, maybe not 4-1 if you count the slaves, but the slaves' loyalty was questionable at best for obvious reasons. And anyway, they also had more railroads, more industry, way more industry. I think for something like for every rifle the Confederacy made, the Union made 30 or so. And they had many times more railways and all that stuff. Not to mention, even though it was primarily a land-based conflict, the naval aspect played a big role because the Union had a navy that the South could never hope to even match. They could blockade and they could strangle the Confederacy. In fact, the two most important battles occurred simultaneously with each other: Vicksburg and Gettysburg. They were both the two most important battles of the war. It is almost impossible to tell which one was more important because they both happened at virtually the same time, so it's kind of hard to figure what was the straw that broke the camel's back. In any case, another disadvantage the Confederacy had was the Emancipation Proclamation after the Battle of Antietam or Sharpsburg, depending on what side of the Mason-Dixon line you live on. And that made it impossible for France or the UK to intervene because they both outlawed slavery, and siding with a slave power over a free one was just politically no for them. Anyway, it's just the South wasn't at all prepared for fighting the Union. As William T. Sherman said, it was just like, for every locomotive we can make, you can only make a yard of string. And he's even his prediction was pretty accurate because he said, you'll make headway, but in the end, if you just look at the numbers, you're bound to fail. And it was so true. Anyway, it's just so fucking, it's the odds the South went up against were insane. And another important reason was the lack of centralized leadership. There was no real high commander-in-chief for the South other than Jefferson Davis. He tried to administer, there was no real high command. It was like the South was fighting a bunch of tactical battles, the North was fighting a strategic war. And that's the big difference. The Confederacy had a lot of tactical successes. And but the North, they had the strategy based on Winfield Scott's Anaconda Plan, which was designed to choke the Confederacy out, which it did. And the odds the South were facing were just daunting. They were insanely daunting. It's kind of like, a little kid, a little skinny-ass Steve Urkel type going up against Mike Tyson. That's basically what their odds were. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, it's kind of, anyway, this is just my take on it, and there's just so much more that you can dive into by reading on your own and researching on your own. And could Stonewall Jackson have saved the Confederacy if he'd still been around? Maybe, but that's doubtful. I mean, the South needed someone of Lee's caliber in the West. I mean, they could they have done it? I mean, Patrick Cleburne, they had Nathan Bedford Forrest out west, they had Patrick Cleburne, but they didn't have a Lee to handle things out west. There were a succession of bad generals out there. I'm like Bragg and Hood and Johnston didn't do a good job either. And so anyway, maybe if the South had a good general had a good army commander out west, they could have won, but that's still extremely doubtful. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace.